Hello, welcome to lesson number 5 of unit number 7. In this lesson, we're going to learn about centuries and decades. What is a century? A century is a period of 100 years. So according to the Gregorian calendar, first year, AD, is year 1, of course. As I said, there's no year 0. So, year 1 AD to year 100 AD is the first set of 100 years. Okay. So that is, of course, the first century AD or CE. Now, year 401 until year 500 AD is the fifth set of 100 years. So that is the 5th century AD. Right? So again, year 401 to 500 is the 5th century. All of those years are within the 5th century. If it was year 501, that would be within the 6th set of 100 years, so it would be part of the 6th century. And that would go on until year 600, of course. And then again, year 601 until year 700, that's the 7th century AD. Alright, so a lot of people get confused. They think that year 100 until year 199, they think that those years are part of the 2nd century, when in fact, year 100 is still a part of the 1st century. So year 101 until year 200, those years encompass or are a part of the 2nd century AD. Alright. So, I don't know, year 801 until year 900. What century is that? I'll give you a second to think about it. Okay, year 801 until year 900, part of the 9th century. All of those years are in part of the 9th century. That is the 9th century, according to the Gregorian calendar. Okay, and this works the same way for BC years. So year 1 BC is part of the 1st century BC, and year 100 BC is still a part of the 1st century BC. Year 101 until 200 BC are all part of the 2nd century BC, etc. Now keep in mind that when we're talking about centuries BC, the bigger the number is, okay, the further away in time that date is, which is the opposite of AD. So the bigger the number is when we're talking AD, the closer to our own time that year would be. Okay. Unless you're talking about the future, but we're talking about history here. Alright, now I've included a pretty good video which breaks this down quite well. So if you're still a little bit confused about centuries and how to count the centuries, you can watch this video. And I do recommend it. It's only about 6 minutes long. Decades. So what's a decade? A century is a period of 100 years. A decade is a period of 10 years. So maybe you'll hear me talk about the 1970s. Probably not in this course because we're not talking about that point in time or those dates. But if you ever hear the 1970s, it's referring to that particular decade, right? Or maybe you'll hear the 2010s. It's referring to that period of 10 years. You may also hear me mention the word millennium or millennia. So a millennium is a period of 1,000 years. Okay, so that's decades, centuries, millennia, periods of 10, 100, and 1,000 years respectively. Okay, and that's it for this lesson, so thank you very much for listening.